Hello and welcome everybody, this is Glitch. Welcome to episode 4 of the What is StarCraft series. Today, I'm going to be talking just a little bit about the basics of the Zerg race. I saved the Zerg for last because they operate just a little bit differently than all the rest of the races do, which I will demonstrate in just a moment. One of the biggest main differences of the Zerg race is that rather than produce buildings that produce army units for the Zerg just have a hatchery which produces all the units. Worker units, army units, everything comes from a hatchery. Now, what I'm selecting here, this is the hatchery. This is the basic structure of the Zerg, just like a command center or a nexus. It's where the workers bring their minerals and Vespene gas back to. But like I said, it produces larvae, and these larvae are what morph into the Zerg's units. Now, a hatchery also has another ability. This is called Birth Queen. This allows you to bring a queen onto the field. This queen is a special unit for the Zerg. It acts as both a defensive unit, it can attack both ground and air, but it also has some special abilities that are very unique to the Zerg race. The first is Spawn Larva. This allows a queen to inject a hatchery with larvae. And after a short duration, those larvae will pop off and become available to turn into units. On its own, a hatchery will only produce 3 larvae. With injections, however, a hatchery can have up to 19 larvae at once. The queen also has the ability to lay down a creep tumor, which you can use to spread creep around the map. After a short duration, you can even use that creep tumor to spawn another creep tumor. Finally, the queen has the transfuse ability. The transfuse ability basically acts as a heal. It works on both buildings and on units. Now there are a few quirks that I'd like to talk about briefly about the Zerg race before I get too much into detail about them. The first is that Zerg don't actually build buildings. Zerg actually morph into buildings. Let me demonstrate. You can see that I now have a drone. This is a worker just like these guys over here that are mining minerals. If I want to build a building, I can just hit the build button, I can select what I want to build. Notice I have to place it on this purple stuff. This purple stuff is called creep. It is necessary for all Zerg buildings. And just like that, the worker becomes the building. Now the creep does other things for us too. The creep allows almost all Zerg units to move faster. You can see the movement speed of these roaches on creep is a little bit higher than when they are off creep. If that's not enough for you to tell, check out the queen. The queen moves kinda slow on creep, but moves ridiculously super slow off creep. One last quirk to the Zerg race is that almost all of the Zerg units can burrow. This means that they burrow underground and they temporarily become invisible to any units around as long as there are no detectors around. Next, I'm going to talk about the form of supply for the Zerg. Now, for the Protoss, there were pylons, and for the Terrans, there were supply depots. But for Zerg, the Zerg have these overlords. The overlords are a flying unit, which have the ability to act as transports as well. Units can load onto them, and be unloaded at any time. They also have the ability to spread creep. If you don't already have creep here, then this overlord can start producing some. An overlord also has an ability to morph into an overseer. That's this guy right here. And the overseer has several abilities. First of all, it acts as a detector, so it allows us to see invisible units. It also has the ability to spawn a changeling, which acts as a small scout that lasts for only a short duration. And it also has the ability to contaminate. The contaminate slows down the production of any structure. Like so. There are 3 levels of tech available to the Zerg. The level of tech basically determines what kind of units they can have at any one time. The most basic level of tech is hatchery tech. This is what you saw earlier here. That's the same building as that guy right there. Now the hatchery has this option called mutate into lair. When you do that, it will look like this. The lair can likewise morph into a hive, which looks like this. Again, the level of tech that you have determines the kinds of units that you can have. I'm now going to talk about the different buildings you can get at each level of tech. At hatchery tech, you can get a spawning pool, which allows you to produce Zerglings, a baneling nest, which allows you to morph Zerglings into banelings, a roach warren, which allows you to make roaches, and an evolution chamber, which provides upgrades for all your ground units. At Lair Tech, there are 4 buildings available to us. The first is the Hydralisk Den, which allows us to produce Hydralisks, an Infestation Pit, which allows us to create and upgrade Infestors, and a Spire, which allows us to create Mutalisks and Corruptors. There's also a Nidus network, which I will get to in a little bit, because it requires some special attention. Finally, at Hive Tech, you can create an Ultralisk Cavern, which allows you to create Ultralisks, and allows you to morph your Spire into a Greater Spire, which allows you to morph your Corruptors into Broodlords. Alright, now to go over, very briefly, the units of the Zerg. First of all, the Zerglings. The Zerglings are a very, very fast and mobile attack unit. Very basic, very cheap, and very easy to produce in very, very large numbers. A Baneling Nest, as I said before, allows you to morph Zerglings into Banelings. Banelings are a suicide attack unit, which do massive amounts of damage, but kill themselves in the process. Roaches are a very thick-skinned armored unit that has the ability to burrow and move while burrowed. At Lair Tech, several units are available. The first is the Hydralisk. The Hydralisk can attack both ground and air, but is pretty lightly armored and doesn't take a whole lot of damage. Next is the Infestor. The Infestor is a spellcaster unit, which can spawn infested Terran Marines, which last a short duration, and can attack both ground and air. They can Fungal Growth, which is a spell that you can cast on an area that immobilizes and damages all units in an area. And then it has the ability to Neural Parasite. Neural Parasite basically allows you to mind control an enemy unit for a short time. I'm going to demonstrate all of these abilities against an enemy computer in just a moment. Okay, I'm now going to demonstrate the Infestor's abilities. I have no idea what I'm about to go up against in here, but it is a very easy computer, so I think I can handle it. Infested Terrans, which are going to spawn a bunch of Terran Marines that last for a limited time. Fungal Growth, which immobilizes units, and a Neural Parasite, which temporarily mind controls a unit. Here we go. Alright, I'm going to Neural Parasite the Stalker to mind control it. There's the Stalker. I threw down some infested Marines here, which are now going to start attacking this Zealot, and then I'm going to Fungal Growth it so it can't move. Oh, and the Stalker came back, so I'm going to Fungal Growth it so it can't move anymore. And it's being dealt damage right now. And there you have it. Those are the abilities of the Infestor. Go, little Marines, go! Aww. The last 2 units available at Lair Tech are the Mutalisk, which are very, very fast flying units that can attack both ground and air. They also have a Glaive Worm, which is an attack that bounces. The last 2 units available at Lair Tech are the Mutalisk, which is a very, very fast flying unit that can attack both ground and air, and the Corruptor, which is a flying armored unit that can only attack other air units. Finally, at Hive Tech, we have the Ultralisks. These are massive armored units that can dish quite a bit of damage. We also have the Broodlord, which morphs from the Corruptor, which we saw earlier. The Broodlord is a very, very high damage flying unit that can only attack ground targets via these little broodlings that it shoots. I'm now going to come back and briefly talk about the Nidus Network. The Nidus Network is a special building that allows you to connect your bases or allow your units to move across the map very fast. Let me demonstrate. You can load up units into a Nidus Network. Anywhere you have sight, you can select your Nidus Network, summon a Nidus Worm, which spawns after a short period of time, and allows you to transport your units all instantly from one location to another. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have enjoyed this introduction to the Zerg race. You've now learned all about the structures and the units that the Zerg have available to them. So now all that's left is to go out and try to play them. Go play the Zerg. They're a whole lot of fun. They're my favorite race. I love just overwhelming opponents with just massive numbers of units. I mean, Look at him go. Look at him go. How could you not want to play a race like that? Looks like so much fun. I love the Zerg. I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed casting it. Go out. Go play Zerg. GG, guys. Glitch out.